Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to an episode of Bible Thumping Wingnet Podcast. My name is Tim, and I am on the road for the first time. We are on a obscure YouTube channel. What's today's date?
4/22.
4/22, and I am in Cleveland, Ohio, very close to Cleveland, Ohio.
Very close.
What town are we in? What's your address? What street are we at?
North Royalton, Ohio. Closest I get.
The two voices, or the two gentlemen that you see seated next to me, closest to me is Anthony Silvestro of Creation Revival, and Andrew Rappaport, which most of our audience is familiar with from Striving for Eternity. And Bible Thumping Wingnet is a ministry of Striving for Eternity. Is Creation Revival a ministry of Striving for Eternity? Or
We are also part of Striving for Eternity.
okay. Oh, good. Look at that. We're one happy family.
Happy family.
Yes, we are. And we are here in the Cleveland, Ohio area for a conference. Lots of people involved, lots of dedicated men who love the Lord, who are involved in local churches, and each are part of another ministry. So there's so many ministries to remember. Tomorrow we'll be interviewing Ricky Gantz from G220 Radio, G220 Ministries. The conference that we're at is called In the Beginning God, and it's
Ministries.
Run by Remember Ministries. And John Eckel is he the founder of that?
He is.
And you're part of that.
I'm his editor for all of his blogs, and I write some of my own on there. So,
But you're part of the team, bro.
I'm part of the team too.
You're on the page. You're on the website.
Well, I think they got tired of me putting my bio at the end of every one of my blogs. They decided just to put my name on there, so they didn't have to do that.
So you're all part of that particular ministry.
We're just all intertwined.
You are.
Wait, that's a crazy idea. Christians working together?
Oh, I know. Can you believe it?
And I just want to point out,
We get along most of the time.
I assume, hopefully not wrongfully so, but I assume that each of these men who are part of these ministries are part of a local church, right? So we're just not, lone wolves out there, people that weren't happy with their churches. Am I right, or am I saying something really bad?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We every one of us is part of a local church whose pastors are involved in our ministries in some way.
No, actually, so the pastors are going to be there tomorrow at the conference.
Right.
And part of this conference began today with an opportunity to go out and do open air evangelism.
And two of the pastors, both Anthony's and Ricky's pastors, were out at the open air today doing open air. Well, they weren't doing open air, but they were there handing out tracts and doing one-on-ones while the guys were doing open air.
One of them did open air.
Yeah, Pastor Austin
Austin
Ketzler,
yeah, that's true,
of Christ the Rock Church was open airing. My pastor, Chris Hinckley of Olmsted Falls Baptist Church, was walking around handing out the Biggest Question Why DVDs from Todd Friel's ministry.
He was a big guy.
He's a big guy.
That was your pastor.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mess with him.
Yeah.
Is there someone you would mess with? Just curious.
Well, that other pastor was. Yeah, look, I think I could take him.
Okay, so the open air preaching.
Yeah. We had an interesting crowd there. I don't know how much we want to get into. Well, why not? I mean, talk about the outreach today.
Well, okay, so let's start before the open air started. Before the open air started, there was a great Pastor Austin had a great conversation with a Muslim woman. She actually was someone who the group had met with. What was it, like 5 months ago?
About 5 months ago in October, we did a college tour in Cleveland.
Where we work today? Did we say that?
Was it Cleveland University?
We were at Cleveland State University, downtown Cleveland.
Yeah, so here's this woman who they had a conversation with 5 months ago, came up because saw them again, started a conversation again. Pastor Austin talked to her, I then ended up sitting down and talking with her, which was kind of fun because, she was arguing that the Quran there's never been any textual variances with the Quran. There hasn't been any multiple copies of the Quran. And then all of a sudden I start saying, but, your third caliph had to burn the abhorrent texts. If there weren't multiple copies, what was he burning? She goes, I know nothing about it. I'm like, well, maybe you should research that, And Pastor Austin was just kind of going through, like, she really had an issue with the Trinity. The problem is she had a wrong definition, which is what we see with Muslims a lot. And I don't know. I've been noticing more and more Muslims on college campuses. Have you been noticing that?
I have.
Yeah. I don't know if that's just a trend everywhere or just in the few places we've been going.
I noticed there was quite a bit walking through the courtyard there that we were in today. And that's when you were engaged with her sitting down there, that's when I arrived. And I stood up there on the steps for about 15 minutes before anybody saw me. So I was just like surveying the whole thing. And while I was standing there, these two young men walked in and they had buttons on and they were quite flamboyant looking, and they looked like they were for trouble. So I said, hey, what do you guys got planned? He goes, well, we're going to go down there and wash that off. It's like somebody had written with chalk, socialism is bad. I'm a proud American.
Oh, is that what they?
And those two guys were up there. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right. And so then they went down there and they washed it off. But they had obviously noticed you had been standing and talking, Anthony. Anthony had been doing some one-on-one. I don't know if you started preaching a little bit, but
I
maybe
just started preaching at that point. So
and then you were engaged in actually a one-on-one when I walked in, and then these guys walked in. So they knew you were there. They must have been in the courtyard before because they knew to go get the water to wash this off.
Right.
So they were ready. And I think, well, those people listening, you don't know, those were your two main hecklers today. They were there.
The ones that started us off, yeah.
They were there waiting for you guys. I don't know if you guys sent them a memo that you're coming or what, but once they saw you were there, they were sticking around for the long haul. And
what's interesting is those two guys were there 5 months ago when we were at Cleveland State University as well. And one of which, the one guy actually stayed there and engaged with us for a while, engaged with my pastor the last time we were there. And then it just so happened my pastor and I went to a Bernie Sanders rally that was here in Berea, Ohio, at my alma mater, Baldwin Wallace. And the one guy was there too. My pastor recognized him from the conversation from months earlier, and they talked some more. So this is actually our third encounter with him in the last 5 months.
The dark-haired boy?
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, Ricky Gantz, G220 gets up to open air preach, and they just started chanting. They're
singing or something.
Yeah, yo ho, I don't know what that was, but they were just trying to be distracting. And Ricky Gantz, he's an excellent open air preacher, and Anthony, you and I, we actually, we thought about going over and talking to the hecklers to ask them why they were being so intolerant. But then I remembered, I haven't gone open air preaching very often, and I remembered somebody saying, God sends hecklers to get a crowd.
Yep.
So Anthony, you and I decided, well, let's not go over there right away, and it just began to grow. The crowd began to grow, and there was a lot of people there. I don't know if you guys want to weigh in on what happened next.
Well, Ricky was preaching, and he had a heckler who had a voice, which is good to have a heckler that has a voice, because but they were actually competing with him a little, and it did build a crowd. Now there were several pockets of people that were listening.
Many.
Yeah. And there were people behind us on stairs. There were people, several different groups throughout and you knew that they were talking about the preaching, because there were sometimes every once in a while would shout out some things.
Right.
which is, what you end up seeing with a lot of the open air preaching. They did not like the gospel.
They're bad. They were real bad. Who was up next?
Anthony was.
Anthony
went up next.
Anthony got up next, and I was standing. You know why? I actually played a little good cop, bad cop. Okay,
Which one are you?
I was the good cop because
Really?
there was some ladies there who were offended at your method, and
And my method?
the method of standing up
Now, was-
and proclaiming.
Now, was
Okay.
that the one Greek Orthodox woman?
Well, she was one of them. There was another.
Okay,
The first girl that I talked to, she was just, that this isn't what Christians do. This was, and I says, okay, well, I said to her, forget about like the method. Let's talk about the message. Do you agree with the message or do you disagree? And she looked at me and she goes, are you with them? I said, yes, I am. She goes, I don't want to talk to you. And she left. She just left during your preaching. She was gone.
Wow.
She was the first girl that walked up. Like the Greek Orthodox girl came up later.
Yes.
Who the Greek Orthodox girl, does she get up on? Was she standing next to you or was she standing next to
Is next to Ricky.
Ricky?
Stood up next to.
Well, I don't know how much we need to get into her personally, but it was very interesting. It was a very lively crowd. There had to have been 75, maybe even as many as 100 in the courtyard there. But because the hecklers were there, it drew a crowd, and I don't know how many of us were there total.
There was
Were there
about 8 of us.
Was there only 8?
Well, there might have been a couple more because there were some guys that came from out of town. Roman and I think it's Bud was the other
And
guy.
Bud. Okay.
So you had that. So we probably had more like 10
So
to 12
yeah,
evangelists.
So,
People sharing.
at the time when somebody's preaching, then you've got 6 or 8 other guys standing around, and it just opened up all kinds of avenues. I didn't feel comfortable open air preaching. I wasn't asked to. I didn't get the opportunity, so I was nervous because I was afraid I might get a chance to. But I really enjoyed talking one-on-one. But when the one guy heckled all through Ricky Gantz's message, which was great, and then Anthony got up and you preached, and the hecklers had actually come over and gathered over by me. I was standing right next to him, and I noticed that the loud heckler, like, you wanted to address him, but he clearly did not want to engage with you. All he wanted to do is mock, and any opportunity for engagement, he completely shied away. So that's unfortunate. I think it could have been a better communication of the whole debate if he would have engaged.
He didn't want to engage, and I mean, Anthony at one point pointed out that the guy wasn't saying anything; he was just insulting, and that's when the guy was like, "I'm done. I'm out of here." I think Anthony called him out on the carpet for what he was doing, and he came back a couple of times, and just wanted to do insults.
Yeah. He wouldn't answer any questions. He would just try to ask a question and accuse me of not answering it.
Well, what was the question you asked him first?
You started asking him about knowledge and how much knowledge that he has.
Right. Yes, I was challenging him how he could know anything for certain, and ask him what basis he had for it, and he couldn't come up with anything. So then I tried to draw him down the avenue of both the idea of how much knowledge this entire world or entire universe do you actually have, and show him that for all of what he doesn't know, could it refute the little bit you think you know? And once he realized that avenue, he stopped talking. So then I changed the avenue towards the evolution argument, and he obviously was an evolutionist. So I asked, well, if you are just a result of random chemical reactions from pond scum all the way up to you, how can you trust anything that you say as being true? And that's really what I think set him off.
His only response was a logical fallacy. You too. And that.
Well, no,
was
he had a
it.
second one. It was the ad hominem.
Yeah, we're not going to say that. We're not going to say that word here.
He had a few choice ad hominems, I
Yes.
think.
Yes.
And he could say them louder than any other word that
Yes.
he used.
Yeah.
So it was interesting, but the blessing was, after Anthony, Andrew, you got up.
Well, actually, before me was Pastor
Pastor Austin.
Pastor Austin.
Well, we got to go back even a little further, though, because after the one guy walked off, the two guys with the buttons that were the charismatic type guys, after he walked off with the knowledge claims, the other guy came up, and we immediately challenged him to knowledge claims. And the first thing that we started asking him was where he got his knowledge from, and then it turned right to truth, to understand what is truth. And he made a statement that said, you can't absolutely know anything for certain. And we quickly pointed out that was a self-refuting claim, that he was trying to make an absolute truth statement saying there's no such thing as truth. And he did it twice in a row. And as you pointed out, we don't know if he even understood.
That it's what he believes. He doesn't believe that there are absolutes. Therefore, he wasn't making an absolute claim. He was just saying he doesn't believe there are absolutes. And you said, but that statement is an absolute. Even if you're saying you believe it, and this is the thing, this is the irony. Okay, this is one of the things that cracks me up. When you point out to a professing atheist that they have religious beliefs, they get very upset, but then all they want to do is say, well, I'm not making a claim here. I'm just telling you what I believe. Wait, do you believe it or do you not believe it? Which is it? It's like it changes based on the conversation. If we're talking about atheism as a religion, I have no beliefs. But if we're going to talk about absolutes, I have beliefs.
I think
It's very interesting.
the one thing that I think can be helpful, and we all learned from Cy ten Brugge and Kate certainty, right?
Well, no, some of us got that from Bonson.
Are you certain of that?
Or Lyle.
And
Yeah.
and I've had some interactions with non-believers who pointed out, who made it clear to me, like they wanted to argue about what the definition of certainty. And what I've found actually, and you guys, maybe you've heard this before, I like to stay away from saying certainty. I like to stay away from saying absolute truth. I want to say truth. Okay? Forget about certainty, forget about absolute. Can you know truth? Period. And that actually takes a step out of it. Like, there's some smart atheists who will watch this and they'll be like, oh yeah, Tim listened to so-and-so about that, but why doesn't he listen about anything else? Well, because this is one of the few things that actually makes sense that an atheist pointed out to me, is that certainty doesn't matter. The question is whether you actually know truth. And it was interesting. This is digging deeper into a topic that I don't know how much I want to go into, but this particular atheist, I listened to, it's Ozzy. Do you know who Ozzy is?
No.
Okay, he's an atheist. He used to teach philosophy.
Well, no, he professes to be an atheist.
Yes, that's correct. He pointed out that certain, somebody could be certain of something and it could actually not be true.
Yeah.
So then forget about. So I'm not going to sit around here and debate certainty with you. Let's talk about truth. Can you know truth? And I recently watched a video of him saying that you can know truth. You can know truth. But then he was challenged. Do you actually know that you know it's true? And you know what he said? No. There's no way you can know that you actually know that it's true, but you know it's true. So even the smartest ones end up, the folly just gets exposed with presuppositional apologetics.
Yeah, that's where, so for the Striving for Eternity, in the Striving for Eternity class that we do, the Academy this week, we were doing Q&A, and we had random atheist guy join us, RAG for short. That random atheist guy, RAG, someone pointed out but I wasn't trying to rag on him or anything. But but what ended up happening was we start. Okay, so did the universe have a beginning? Well, I don't know. Okay, do you understand the first law of thermodynamics? No. Okay, so let's go with that. There was a creation universe. Could it have created itself? I don't know. Wait, you think the universe could have created itself? Maybe. Really? So something doesn't exist, but it brings itself into existence. Wouldn't it first have to exist to bring itself into existence? Well, yeah. So the universe couldn't bring itself into existence. Well, maybe it could. It was like, that's the absurdity, because they don't want to accept the conclusions that they know it's going to go to. So it's, I'm going to dodge, I'm going to avoid having to answer by, not having to, either like the one guy that was heckling you, just using insults to avoid having to answer, or being like, well, I'm not making claims here. I'm not the one making any claims here. I'm taking a negative position. You have to prove the positive. I mean, all these tactics that they do to avoid answering. And really what I think is, when you have that shows how empty their worldview is. Mm-hmm. They want to tell us how wrong we are, but their worldview is so empty, they don't even try to defend it. At least we have the courage of our convictions to stand up there and explain what we believe, what the Bible says, what God says in his word, and say, this is truth. They don't even want to stand on their convictions.
That's because they know that they don't. That's every worldview that opposes Christianity. When you break it down, it becomes ultimate skepticism, and you can't know any truth. Zero. And it frustrates the heck out of them, so they're just gonna, ask us to lower our standards to theirs, which, okay, if we're gonna go with their worldview, we don't know anything. Fine, we don't know anything. There you go. Do you actually believe that? And then that's when I ask them some embarrassing questions of whether they actually know this, that, or the other thing. Oh no, I couldn't really know that I'm a man.
You're the one guy that wasn't even sure if he loved his wife.
Oh,
or if she existed, if his wife existed.
That's right. Okay, so
but okay. So here's the thing: when someone tells me that they cannot know things, can't know for sure, can't know truth, and then say, "But you can't either," it's like, no, I can. That's the difference. So you say you can't know things for sure, I can. So as the one who can know things for sure because I'm getting it from a source who is absolutely true, so that's where I'm getting it from. So since I'm the one that actually does know for things for certain, you should give up your worldview of uncertainty for the one that is certain.
And how, if they can't know anything, well, how would they know if you actually know something or not?
Well, see, so today, the last guy I talked to, who I told you guys about earlier, he called himself a Colemanist. He's a philosophy guy who is just observing all the religions, trying to figure out what he thought was true in each one to kind of put it all together. When I kept challenging him on truth claims, he said, "Okay, let's start over." He goes, let's not talk about Jesus right now. Let's put him aside and let's just start talking. And I go, why? Because you want to take away the truth aspect of our conversation.
Yeah.
It was ludicrous. I said, I'm not going to do this. I'm still going to stand on my worldview and we're going to talk.
Which is really part of the message that I delivered when I got up to Open Air Preach, which is there's an objective way to know which religion is divine and which is man-made. And you could take Buddhism. You can have Buddhism without Buddha because it's an ideal. You could have Islam without Muhammad. Okay? Even though they would have a reverence for Muhammad, the religion is not based on Muhammad himself. God could have used any man, or Allah could have used any man. Okay? Joseph Smith, there's nothing special about him. And so you have a foundation of teachings that any man could have done. And you take any world religion other than biblical Christianity, and you have that. But biblical Christianity is based on a person. And what's special about that person is fully God, fully man. Being fully God, he can pay the fine of all people, all times, for eternity. Being fully man, he can pay the fine for men. So this is what makes him unique. And the way to know objectively which religion is man-made versus God-made is that a man-made religion, any man-made religion, will always lift man up. Man will raise himself to somehow, whether it's his works, his genealogy, his birth, he's born Jewish, born Roman Catholic, whatever it is, that being born something is going to get them into heaven or get him right with God, or it's going to be his desire, because he's a good person. He thinks he got good enough nature, or we're all going to heaven. But it's going to be something like that, where they raise man up to be the standard. And when you look at it that way, you take the religion of human effort versus the religion of divine effort, and only one fits in the category of divine effort, and that's biblical Christianity. It's the only one that says God did the work, man didn't. And that makes it unique. A third thing that makes Christianity unique from every other religion, it's the only one where you can have a God that's both just and merciful. And this is something that Pastor Austin was trying to speak with that Muslim girl about, is that for Allah to be merciful, he has to let criminals go, because that's what mercy is. Someone deserved a punishment and you didn't carry it out, but justice is meting out that punishment. So to have girl, but we have both. We have a God who can be just because he punished himself in our place. And the fact that the punishment is fully paid is how he can give mercy. And so these are three ways you can objectively look and just say, okay, what religion has a God that's both just and merciful? Only Christianity. What religion has a religion that's completely divine effort, no human effort, versus the ones that are human effort? Well, only Christianity is divine. So all the others are man-made. What's the one that's not based on an ideal, but an individual, God himself? Christianity again. It's an objective way you can compare.
Good. Great stuff. So the open air preaching, open air evangelism, the more preachers came up, but I didn't hear much of your engagement with that second guy because I was talking to one person. But basically, just to wrap up this part of our discussion, because there was hecklers there, it drew a crowd. More people were able to get up and preach publicly, which brought lots and lots of one-on-one conversations. I mean, we probably talked to scores of people, and even after we stopped preaching, we continued to do the small groups or the one-on-one. So it was really good. It was really good. I really enjoyed it, and I didn't have to get up and preach publicly.
Tomorrow night?
That's what I'm thinking.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Tomorrow night, some video.
Let's talk about tomorrow.
Yeah,
Video. Bible Thumping when it gets up there and all the cameras come out.
Yep. I'll bring mine.
So tomorrow is the conference itself, starting early, and you, sir, are speaking 3 times tomorrow.
3 times.
So this is kind of like the Anthony Silvestro show.
Oh no, I am not the main speaker. Andrew's the main
Andrew,
speaker.
how many times are you speaking tomorrow?
2.
Wow, 3, 2.
But I speak Sunday.
Yeah,
That counts.
is that the conference? That's not the conference, though.
No.
Okay, so tell us what you're speaking on tomorrow. You're speaking 3 times. Creation Revival. Your focus is helping people understand and defend biblical young Earth creationism.
Yep.
What are you speaking on tomorrow?
Yeah, so the specific topics, one topic's going to be on the relevance of Genesis, why we have to have a correct understanding of the book of Genesis, specifically Genesis 1 through 11, to understand the rest of the Bible properly. And so we're going to spend an entire session talking just about that, especially dissecting Genesis 1, 2, and 3. The next session is going to be on creation apologetics. So, being on the streets a lot, and especially, for those of you who don't know, I'm a dentist, and I get to speak with the patients all the time. When you share the gospel,
Wait, do they get to talk back?
not when I do it right.
That's what I was thinking.
So I want to ask you, you consider yourself to be a good person?
But when I let them ask a question, it's amazing how most of the questions that come back at you are either related to the question of why do bad things happen to people in some form. Why do kids get cancer? Why did my mom just pass away? I just had that one about a week ago. A younger guy who just loved his mom. So that's a big one. And the other part of it is did Noah and his ark really happen?
Right.
Did he really get all the animals on the ark? Why are there different races and languages and they come from a correct understanding again of Genesis 1 through 11? And so we're going to spend an entire session just dissecting what the most commonly asked questions or most common challenges are on the street. And we will take both the presuppositional standpoint as well as the creation standpoint. Because I think it's okay. I'm a complete presuppositionalist, but I do believe that people have genuine questions on the street. And there is a scripture verse that we are supposed to demolish strongholds. And so I have no problems giving an answer to somebody who has a sincere question. So that's going to be the second session. The third session, I'm tag teaming with Andrew. We're essentially doing.
I'm sorry, let me interrupt you.
Yeah.
I don't know if I was daydreaming, but the first session is 1 through 11. The
Well,
second one is
all well. It's going to be a correct understanding of Genesis. So we're going to do mostly the days of creation, understanding why they must be 6 24-hour literal days of creation, why this earth is only about 6,000 years old, and then the repercussions of that, and how you must stand on that to understand Scripture the rest of the way. In fact, I'm going to make some bold statements tomorrow, and we'll do that today. While I believe a Christian can be saved and not believe a 6,000-year-old earth, I believe that you have a major problem with the gospel if you don't stand on a 6-day creation. And it goes back to, why did Jesus die on a cross? Or did he have to die on a cross? And you have to go back and have an understanding of Genesis 2 and 3 properly.
this is great.
And
I'm getting excited. I can't wait to hear it.
So, and the neat thing is what Anthony doesn't know with my message is that I plan on talking about the doctrine of imputation and explain that if you don't take a literal view of Adam and that he literally sinned, then you can't have Christ. Because Christ can only pay a literal payment if we have a literal Adam.
Yeah.
He can't be mythical.
As we see in Romans and 1 Corinthians, and there's a number of verses that link Adam and Christ together. So that's how the two sessions will kind of differ. One's going to do the days of creation, the other one's going to do the actual apologetics out of Genesis. And then the third session is going to be piggybacking with Andrew on presuppositional apologetics. So he's going to give some of the theory behind it, and then I'm going to give some of the practical application on the street. Similar to what we did today in the guys and their self-refuting statements about truth. We're going to point out some of those commonly made statements that are just self-refuting. So
Good stuff. Good stuff. And then the other speaker tomorrow is Ricky Gantz. And Lord willing, I'm going to be able to interview him.
Yeah,
While you're talking, we'll have
well, he's going to talk on some very practical things of witnessing and open air preaching and evangelism, how to handle things on the street when you're out there. So I think that's going to be, so he's going to be last, so that we go right from his very practical lessons on how to do outreach to going straight out, and we're going to go out right after and do an outreach.
Yeah, what's really interesting about this conference is that when John Eckel and I and Ricky Gantz last year put together our first conference, I think we made the mistake that a lot of conferences do, that in fact I think most evangelism conferences do, not yours.
You weren't in the early years.
Yeah. But so many evangelism conferences have turned into very good preaching, but nothing that's practical to go out on the streets, not teaching people to go out on the streets and do this. And we made that mistake last year, and we vowed that we were not going to do that this year. And so we really focused for the last 12 months in how to put together a conference that was going to be practical for people to be able to literally put it into practice the moment they walk out of the conference. And we're excited about tomorrow for that purpose. And then for us to be able to take people out, put them into teams, and actually do it that evening, and give people the confidence to do it. So
Great. We never decided how long we're going to go tonight with this recording, but I think that I'm going to make a decision. Like I had said that I didn't know if I was going to edit this or put it part of a podcast. I think I'm going to upload it tonight.
Okay. There's some people asking. There are some people on.
I think I'm going to upload it tonight. My apology. No commercials, no bumper music, no introduction. Just raw footage of myself and Andrew and Anthony here in Cleveland at the In the Beginning God Conference, and I'm going to do that in hopes that folks will hear and be encouraged, and that they'll also pray.
Yeah. Well, we have some people online that have been asking in Mixlr. They want to know whether it's going to be broadcasted or recorded, and so hopefully, if all goes well,
one way we'll get it to them.
Yeah. So
if not streaming live,
yeah,
we'll put it in.
And so the comment from a regular listener, Larry House, I can't remember.
Larry Herzog.
He says, I need, and need is in all caps, I need to hear these sessions. And Mitchell LeBron says, seriously.
Yes.
So
yeah, I'm excited. Like I've heard you before, Anthony, but some of the things that you've been saying tonight, I'm excited about. I want to hear them. And I've always been a young earth creationist because that's what I was taught. All right. And I remember one of the first times that I came across an atheist on the internet. They wanted to debate me on evolution. First thing, evolution. And I just said, hey, I don't debate that. I'm a young earth creationist, but I don't talk about it. Thankfully, they just respected it. They didn't, they did grant me that. Hey, if you don't want to debate that, fine, we'll talk about something else. So that was good. But I'd rather be equipped to defend what I believe than say, hey, I believe what Eric Hovind does, or what Answers in Genesis says. I agree with the way Answers in Genesis. You want to know where I stand? Let's go listen to those guys. But it would be good for me to learn more, and I'm sure
neither Anthony nor I came to a 6-day creation position. We didn't start there.
That's
both
right.
of us came from an old earth evolutionary thinking.
Yeah. And what was interesting for me is that, I was an evolutionist. I was saved. And
wait, you got saved?
Believe it or not.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
when did that happen?
A couple hours ago.
Okay, amen.
I listened to you preach.
That's what it. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
The first, no.
No. So
most people go to sleep.
I fell asleep after.
Okay, that's a taste of Andrew Rappaport's humor. Now a taste of my humor. Andrew Rappaport of Striving for Eternity Ministries just found out that Anthony Silvestro, who is part of Striving for Eternity, is actually a Christian. So this is good news, folks.
Yeah.
I want to suggest
that screening process.
I want to suggest to the Striving for Eternity board of like the people who help Andrew make decisions, maybe come up with like a form, an application of some kind where you actually find out if somebody's in Christ a believer.
Well, what was funny is I just pulled up John MacArthur's resume off the internet and I submitted that with my name on it.
Sounds
Why not?
good.
Many pastors preach sermons.
Well, yeah, that's what I figured. No, so no, I was an evolutionist, and after I'd gotten saved, I had friends who were creationists who would tell me they're creationists, and I ridiculed them mercilessly. I mean, I beat them to smithereens with evolution over their head. I mean, granted, I didn't know anything, but the evolutionary argument, no matter how much you know about it, you really don't know anything because there is no science that supports evolution. No real science, anyway. And
That's made you very popular on the internet, by the way, that you said that.
yeah, that's good. So
You don't really understand science. You're just a dentist.
I'm just a dentist. Yeah, the math and
Okay.
chemistry majors mean nothing at all whatsoever. But so I beat them smithereens, and the reality is that while they stood on God's word, they had no defense for it at all. they couldn't even defend it. They couldn't defend it from God's word, number one. They couldn't defend it from even a good science standpoint, number two. And so that's what really drives me today, is that when God opened my eyes at the Creation Museum, a number of years ago now, it caused me to want to get out there and teach everybody on young earth creation so they can defend it properly.
All right, good stuff. And we look forward to hearing the messages tomorrow at the conference. If they're not streaming live on Mixlr here, we will be putting them out. They will be recorded.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
One way or another, Bible Thumping Wingnut will have them recorded.
yeah. Yep. So we're going to wrap this up, and I'm going to upload this tonight, completely unedited, probably something I haven't done before, but so that you folks could pray for us, pray for Anthony, pray for Andrew and for Ricky as they minister to us tomorrow. Pray for the crowd, pray for all the logistics to go well, and then pray for the group that will be going out tomorrow night, open air evangelism in Cleveland.
So someone in Mixlr just realized who the guy in the middle is. He says, "Oh, is that the guy who had the debate with the atheist before, who gave his credentials?" And so this is back to an old Bible Thumping Wingnut hangout where someone we knew was going to say that Anthony had no credentials for being a scientist.
Yeah.
For doing science.
All right, folks. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Give us your feedback, BibleThumpingWingnut@gmail.com. Join the Facebook group and all that other stuff.
See you tomorrow.
Yes.
Good night.
And what I do is I don't upload it.
You gotta actually stop it. You're still broadcasting.
Well, I
Good
did
stuff, guys.
I did upload it.